this is it. It's the full-size Toronto City Transit delay. As you just heard there, it has the ability to switch between two different delay times at the top of the foot switch. But before I get into that, let me tell you about the rig I'm using. It's my Telecaster into Blues Junior, which, without the delay, sounds like this. So this is essentially a digital delay that's voiced to be like the old style analog bucket brigade delays, and somewhere between that and vintage tape echo effects. It's based around a chip called the PT2399, which a lot of boutique builders use. I know that Brian Wampler used it in a few of his earlier delay designs. I don't know if he still uses them for the newer ones he does, but no, it's a pretty cool circuit. I basically took a circuit built around the that chip and just expanded as much as I could, every feature that I could figure out how to do into one box. So let me get started in it. So there's obviously three LEDs here. When you hit this foot switch, the other LED comes on, and vice versa. And these two LEDs are related to these two pots, which you know, this one's on, this is active, this one's on, this is active, and basically you're choosing between two different delay times that you can set. Oh yes, and when you manually adjust it while signal's going through, you get that lovely pitch bending thing, which is especially cool when it goes into oscillation, which I'll be getting to in a second. As you can hear, there's a little bit of glitchy sound that happens when you change and signal is going through the pedal. That's just the nature of the effect, and I'd fix it, but honestly I love the cool sound it makes, and so I intend this delay as something that can meet your basic delay needs, but also be like a noisemaker's pedal. So you know, if you're going to like those kind of glitchy noises are very, very cool to me. So maybe for another pedal in the future, I'll see if I can do something that gets those kind of noises like more at will. But obviously, aside from just making those noises, it's extremely handy to be able to change between two delay times at the top of the switch. So you can go from like a shorter slapbacky type sound to a longer, more ethereal delay. That'd be good for layering up sound for solos or things like that. I'll go through some of the more boring controls now. This is the mix control, so basically more to the left is more dry signal. You can still hear a little bit of bleed through from the guitar when it's all the way to the extreme. And then the opposite when it's the other way. I find I tend to like it somewhere around the 9-10 o'clock position. But if you want a different range, there's a trim pot on the inside where you can lower the volume of the echo signal before it gets mixed back together with the dry signal. So up to you, however you want to use it if you get this pedal. And then this is the feedback control, which also controls the repeats. As you can hear there, it has many repeats. You can go back and it reduces it, so you have like... lessens it, and then you go all the way down and you get just one repeat. Which is really useful for those slapback tones. Oh, maybe I should switch to... Never said I could play well. I can just build pedals well. Yeah. Anywho, go from just one repeat to many, two, depending how you have it set. Wait for it. Wait for it. You can get to go into feedback. I just turned it off bypass, but internally it's still doing the same thing. So, and once it goes into that oscillation, you can play around with the delay time. Just fun for getting those spaceship type sounds. However, if you're really a big fan of that kind of thing, that's where this pot and this switch come into play. What this foot switch here does, and it's a momentary foot switch, is it basically bypasses the repeat snub. So you can get instant feedback if you like. However, if you want something more subtle, you just dial this pot back, and it adds a bit of resistance in line with the switch. So it gets more like... So if you play around with that pot and the switch, you can get instant feedback, or you can just do like droning noise, or you can do like layers of sound. And you can just lay a bed of sound down. As soon as you release the momentary switch, dies back down again. But this is something that'd be cool to do with fuzz or something for that. I just turned on my great swirl fuzz circuit. Should probably turn it up. So yeah, those of you who are, who aren't opposed to bending down and twiddling the knobs while you're in the middle of playing, you'll love this pedal, because the possibilities are endless with that kind of control over the oscillation and feedback and getting that infinite repeat type thing. Okay, so next up is the modulation control. These two knobs here are the rate and depth for modulation on the echoes. So the modulation is pretty subtle at shorter settings. Let me just increase the depth up so it's very, well, not subtle. You might be able to hear a little bit of warbling there, that's the LFO, but it gets more noticeable at a time like that. Adjust the speed. It is biased to be pretty fast. At slower settings and higher depth settings, you can sort of get full chorus tones. noticeable when you have the delay all the way down, so you can't get, like, you know, get it to sound exactly like a chorus. But if you have it with a shorter delay time, but still a bit of delay time, it works. Hopefully this explanation won't be too long, but the PT2399 chip, which is used in this pedal for the delay, it doesn't make a repeat short enough to be able to do chorus sounds effectively, because chorus is essentially a delayed signal going back and forth, and as it's going back and forth, it's bending the pitch, and that's what produces the chorus effect in relation to the dry signal. But anyways, it's the chip in here isn't able to do short enough times to make it just chorus, but when it's done on just the repeats, it works. Which is also why at shorter settings it's more subtle than at longer settings. Simply because it needs some space away from the dry note for it to be able to go back and forth. Hopefully that explanation makes sense. But as you'll hear, when I switch to that longer delay time, you can very, very clearly hear the difference. And anyways, this switch here changes between a more vibrato-y type sound on the modulation, the chorus, to more of a pure chorus. Dial that back some so it's not as seasick. I personally prefer the down setting on that switch. Especially when you tweak down the depth. And as you can hear, when it's back to the shorter setting on the left side, it's very subtle again. Put it back there to this side. Give it a bit more time. And even though it's being produced by a digital chip, it actually sounds pretty nice and warm. Like, it's a shame that the chip isn't able to do short enough delay time to build it into a standalone chorus, because it sounds rather nice, but that's my problem, not yours. Yours is to listen to the pedal and decide whether or not you think it sounds good. So the other switch here, the other toggle, that's kill dry switch basically. And what does that do? As you can hear from the plinking of my guitar strings with no sound coming through the amp and then suddenly the echo, it just kills your dry signal. Why would you want that? Other than it being fun to play around with. other than it being cool to play around with, because you're getting it gives this weird sensation where you have absolutely no attack to your notes, because there's a bit of disconnect because you have no dry sound. Other than that, I put that in there to help enable anyone who does like those wet-dry style rigs. So like you have a splitter going between 2 amps, and then put this in the chain of one of the 2 amps for getting your like wet sounds or echoes or whatever, and then you do that and you kill the dry signal, and then you have like a faux stereo kind of thing, which with delay and reverb it's not quite the same as with modulation effects, but it's still pretty cool and can give you a nice bit of spread. And actually, if you were to do it with a wet dry wet rig with 2 wet amps and spread it that way, that would actually be pretty cool. Just have a central dry amp, and then have splitter to 2 other amps, and then have this delay go to both of the wet amps, and then you have that central sound with the echo sweeping off to the sides. But you know, that's for the ambitious gear users out there. For the rest of us, it's you know, little thing there that's just a little fun thing to have. Even if you put the delay time to almost 0, it still feels different from playing with normal delay, because there's still a loss of attack to your sound, which it's different from like playing with a compressor or anything like that. It's just you know, fun thing to fool around with. Anyways, the last thing I'm going to show you is actually without any delay at all, or at least for part of it. So I just turned the depth down on the modulation. Maybe tweak it a bit more. So in order to get the delay to work, you have to take your signal coming from your guitar and split it into a dry signal and into the signal which will go through the delay chip and become your echo signal. This involves a preamp stage which splits the signal off. I put a gain control on that preamp stage. So when you have the guitar off, this is the level. And then with this gain control, you can have it, well, the same level, or you can crank it all the way up. As you can hear, it's definitely louder than when the pedal's off. And although I definitely don't expect someone to buy this pedal just for this, it is cool to have. If you turn the dry all the way down, or the blend control, sorry, and then put the delay to 0 so that the effect is pretty much not there. it is just a straight up boost pedal. Like, it's not a huge amount of gain, but it's enough to lift your signal up, especially when you're using like a Telecaster or something. And then the way it's set up is with an inverting op-amp gain stage. And the values I chose, you can make it so that you can go to less than unity gain as well. Which, why would you want that? Well, if you're using a more powerful guitar with humbuckers or active pickups or something, you may want to attenuate the gain so that your delays don't distort early. Or maybe you do, in which case, crank this back up. A lot of the people who used tape delay units back in the 70s used to crank up the preamp stages because it just gave a cool sound, and so this kind of does that similar thing, and you get and then going into a cranked amp, which I don't currently have, you get, even more of that. So, like, there's much more I could say about this pedal and what I know about delays in general, but hopefully that will suffice for now, because we're coming up on about a half hour of this video. Anyways, with that boost stage there, anyone who wants that sound, but without having to buy a whole pedal, I have actually developed it into a separate boost pedal design, which I have 2 prototype boards at the moment, which I may put up for sale soon. But if there's enough demand, I may make that into its own boost thing, probably with more output and gain available, just so it works better as a boost, but still the same basic preamp design repurposed as a boost. The delay itself, well, you heard it. Hopefully it sounded good. It like went in the hands of a capable player with I guess shoegaze sensibilities and whatnot. Like, it'd be a cool noise-making device and everything, especially with the feedback switch. And that's it. It's the Toronto City Transit delay, the full-sized one. There's a smaller version. I have, I believe I made a video of that earlier. It should be on YouTube right now, but this is the full-size one with the modulation section, the oscillation, the 2 delay times, all that stuff. And yeah, so if you want more information, contact me at tomfreemanaudioeffects@gmail.com. Also check out Tom Freeman Audio Effects on Facebook and Instagram, and tfaudioeffects.com, my website. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please hit like, subscribe to my channel, and hit the notification bell to get more of these lovely videos that hopefully you're enjoying. Anyways.